Good morning, everybody. You have to hear me all good. I'm going to put some. Okay, happy Monday, 20th of October. Let's do a bit of a breakdown from last week and also going into today. These headphones aren't as noise cancelling as the other ones, so I can kind of hear myself speak, but it's all good. Looking here on the NQ, I just wanted to bring your attention to pretty much two major extensions that I paid attention to last week and was able to capitalize on. On the NQ specifically, then we'll look at the ES as well. So the NQ, pretty much on Tuesday, we came into this halfway back, which was after trading on the 4-hour time frame. This was a rebalance of ATR candle, which you can pretty much see if you go to the 4-hour. That was the reversal bar. And then this is when we rebalanced that candle, which was on Wednesday, 10 o'clock. And if you just look back on the half-an-hour time frame, you can see there was two major setups. This was the ETH low of day on Wednesday, and also it did trade on the Tuesday. So it traded it twice, but it finally traded it on Tuesday, completed on Wednesday, and then traded again on Wednesday, completed again into Thursday, traded it again on Thursday, took those lows out, and then we had an under back over. This is also kind of, well, no, this is pretty much a, you can class this as an inverse head and shoulders, but I just class this as an under over. So your price gets under, back over, then retrades that same 50 and also creates another extension. So this is then a low. Again, X marks the spot on the ETH low on Friday. It trades a halfway back on the overnight and then goes all the way to completions. And again, trades a full halfway back at that same level as the Tuesday extension, and again completes that 23, pretty much lining up with the same extension because the 50 was very close to where it was anyway. Those completions above take us back up into the previous week high from Friday, and we have ETH high of day at 25,438, and we have weekly completions to the high side at 25,750s and monthly highs at 25, call it just under 900s. Previous week low also takes us pretty much to the weekly low for the week. So if we do end up selling off, that weekly low pretty much lines up with a potential line in the sand, a failure to go lower of last week's low. So potentially that's locked in. We will see. And then monthly low takes us to 23,670s. Looking on the ES, ES was much cleaner. And I said last week, I've now got alerts set. You can see the ES on Wednesday traded its weekly high and also its ETH high for that day, and pretty much sold off all the way into on Friday the weekly low and also the ETH low for Friday session. And if we look back on the NQ, that was a really nice indication because the weekly high on the NQ before that happened was pretty much trading at around 97%. This line here, so the ES tagged it and the NQ didn't. And you had that divergence between the two, the ES making a lower high here, whilst the NQ made a higher high and then subsequently sold off into the weekly low and the ETH low on Friday. So that was a really nice setup if any of you saw it. Also, if any of you do look at the indexes, specifically the SPY for the ES and the QQQ for the NQ, you can match that with the $5 increments where a lot of the call volume and dealer hedging and positioning is placed, and you can kind of see that 650 and 590 on the SPY and the NQ on the Qs as the support there on the Friday, which was also coincided with what was the ETH and the weekly low on the NQ. So that was a really nice spot for anyone that did see it, and we are pretty much just hitting each one of those $5 increments, finding support, gliding higher, finding support and grinding higher. You can see that both on the 595s, the 600s, the 660s on the SPY, 600s on the Qs, and now 605s on the Qs, 665s on the ES. We've now had that overnight support that has held, and I was actually favoring more a movement to the downside just purely based on the fact that this was a halfway back that has gone to completions. And I said to myself a second ago, this would be a really nice setup if we did actually come down to the 38, just purely because the 38 of this extension here is inside, and the 50 is inside 660s on the SPY and 600s on the Qs. So if we did come down to this area to rebuild some balance, it would be a really nice play that I would be looking at. I wouldn't necessarily short the move down into that level, but if we did come down to 600s on the Qs and 660s on the SPY, that would be a really nice consolidation of all of these break and retests back down to what would be on the NQ, pretty much coming back down to around 24,780s and yeah, about 24,800s, which is inside ETH low of day. So that still is in range for the day. And to be honest, that's all I probably would look for. We have the trend lines there as support as well, both on the Qs and also on the SPY. So if I do the same if I do the same draw on the SPY, that is again the 38 lines up with around where the trend lines are. So anywhere between that would be what I would look for in terms of a nice discount long. Whether we get that today or tomorrow, if we don't, we just gun higher. It's just about trying to find a setup inside that, and that would probably be a break and retest of Friday's highs, which is what's already kind of happened on the overnight session on both the ES and the NQ, and obviously the SPY and the QQQ. So if we don't get that pullback, that is what I would be looking at, just seeing if these aggressive holds continue to hold. And the trend line on the Qs is actually, on the NQ is actually 24,900. So that lines up with, yeah, you'd be breaking support at that point. So I'm gonna give you the example of we don't get that same anchor new high today. And if we do, obviously I've got alerts set at the 50. If we don't get it, I'm going to draw the more aggressive extension just so you guys are aware. And that would pretty much be the high to high from the overnight session on Friday. And that 38 for me is lining up at 926s. So I think if you get a pullback into any of those levels, the first one being basically call it 920s, then I think there's a possibility we have a bit of an under back over of the previous day high on Friday. Obviously all of this stuff here. So what that would look like would be, if we do break this, I think it would be nice to potentially have a move like this. And I would play either this one or this one. I'm not really bothered which one. I'd want to see confirmation on that move before I take it, i.e. green diamonds, momentum up. And if we don't get that, it's most likely going to be a very similar move, but probably would start from the full same anchor new high, which would be something like this, which is nice because this would be a break below, a move back above, and then if we got something like this, this would be a break and retest of the trend line. So you'd have like an under over. It may happen tomorrow if it's going to happen. I don't necessarily know if it's going to happen today. All I'm showing is just in case if it does happen, it's probably something I would look for. And again, that would line up really, really nicely with the QQQ 600 support and the SPY 660 support. So, but of course, if we don't get it and we just continue higher, then you just have to follow those extensions. Right now, Friday's high is acting as support, and we are still in what would be from the extensions on the Friday afternoon pullback into the 50, which is also the 50 from two other sessions as well, that being Tuesday and Wednesday. So you got Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday full halfway back support. So that full negative 100 is there at 25 470s and 25 520s. So they are going to be areas of, that is where price is going to go at some point. It's just whether we do that today, which is in range on the ETH high of day, and will be in range for the RTH high of day. So those are in line with expectations. So that is where I will be gravitating if we do continue to trade the longs. But if we do get that pullback, that is where I'm going to be looking for. So as I always say, there's two aggressive trades. I would class this one as the more conservative trade, and then the more aggressive trade is going to be following any extensions from the RT8 session or those from the overnight session. So if we just have a look at what that would be, it would be the current draw from here, which is basically the high to high, You complete the 23. You then trade the high to high from Friday's afternoon at 10:15, and that is the current draw that we are in. We have not broken that 62. This is a retest of the Friday's high as well as the high to high extension. And if I look on the other screen, so I can see the diamond confluence, you can see here we are inside the true trend. We have had green diamond support all the way up, and we have had a green momentum trend bar to the upside. So the most aggressive trade is currently in play, and that will be in play until it breaks, i.e. we get outside of this true trend and we trade like a momentum, like here we traded this momentum triangle to the downside, and once that traded, we then actually went full traditional on the short, traded the halfway back, completed the full negative 100, same anchor new low, traded the 38, completed the 23. That set up this long here. That long, I believe, would have been a micro as well. So there was a halfway back inside, literally to the point at 61s, and that has just gone full negative 100. So a same anchor new high on that would bring you back down into the 38, which is 102s, which is where I'd look for a potential long off the open if we get it, and that would bring you back up into most likely the high for first hour of the day, and then we will trade accordingly after that. So that is going to be my breakdown. More aggressive trade and the less aggressive trade, I will most likely take both, and obviously you guys will see me and the trades in the room. So everyone on Whoop, I will be on there in a second. Anyone on YouTube, if you are watching this, most of the people probably will be from Whoop, but if you're not inside the trading room, you can click the link below and get inside the room. So I will see you everyone on Whoop over there in a second, and everyone on YouTube, I will see you all tomorrow.